My name is Nate Geyer, the founder of Mintbase. It's a non-fungible token creation minting platform, but it does a whole bunch more. But the whole point of this talk is to really dive into the technology and what it is that we built on to make all this stuff work. So without further ado, I will take over the screen and show you all sorts of stuff. All right, so Mintbase Inc., we are the ground zero for the new virtual economy. You can basically come on our platform, mint a token, declare what that token does, and use that throughout the new world. So our team, we're quite small. Again, I'm Nate Geyer. You can follow me on Twitter at Nate Geyer. So the focus of this is what brought all of this together. Basically, let me get rid of this piece. Basically, the quality of our tech and community is Mintbase's lead competitive advantage. I feel like in order to really be a key differentiator and keep up with the times in blockchain, you have to really understand the tech. Much like the early days of the internet, a lot of the big companies that were created by developers and engineers. Google, Facebook are a few to name a few. MySpace was basically created by a lot of marketers, and we saw how that didn't really keep up with the times. And I feel like right now in the blockchain space, we're kind of in a space where we need to understand the tech. I think in regular internet land, it's fairly easy to understand how and the limitations of what the internet can do. So you don't really need to be a core engineer nowadays to be a CEO or creator of one of these companies. But we're going to dive into what makes us special and how we've been keeping up with the times. We're constantly iterating. We're deploying every single day. The logos you're seeing right now are kind of the core group of what we're building on. And to just kind of go into what we are, Mintbase is basically the Amazon of digital assets on a blockchain, providing the best tools for the new virtual economy. So you basically come on board, you create your tickets, your VR assets, gaming, photography, all sorts of things. Ticketing has been a big item for us. So how does all this work? So basically, the big difference is the creator is the owner of a token. They come on board, they deploy their own smart contract, and a customer can buy that asset directly from them. And after 12 seconds, the asset moves from the creator to the customer. The funds get moved over to the creator. And now we have this beautiful interoperable asset that crypto voxels and OpenSea and exchanges can all interact with. I'm going to just kind of jump into a little show of what it is. So I'm going to hook into Rinkeby. Rinkeby is a test network. Imagine it's just a big world where anyone can come on and basically interact with your application with fake ether. So what I'm going to do is hop in here. And so here's my sort of dashboard. We can see all the NFTs that were created. If we want to go ahead and come in here and edit, we can see all these different bits of NFTs. If we wanted to create our own whole new smart contract, we can come in here and deploy it. That would then populate into this item. And as soon as we come in here, we can basically mint new tokens or old tokens, also mint fresh tokens from scratch. So we can declare whether it's art, we can add multiple files, and we can declare when these items are actually available. And so with that in mind, as soon as we upload the image and the content, everything goes to this thing called Arweave. So I'm going to actually dive into all of what makes this interesting. So let's go into open. Okay, here we are. So we have over 725 deployed smart contracts with 70,000 transactions and over 18,000 users. So how were we able to do all this with just me as the developer and designer? Let's see. We were able to do it with this tech stack. So on the left side, we can see all of that is the traditional. So we're using Next.js as our server-side rendering engine, React, Stripe. We also accept credit and debit cards via the same on-ramp as how Lyft drivers go through. We are using Google Firebase and Google Functions. Mainly, a lot of that is just for experimentation and doing things really quickly. So a lot of how we're redeeming tickets at conferences is basically run by those systems. Or let's say our email engine with SendGrid is fired off when those things get interacted through that pub/sub model. More on the decentralized side on the right, we've got Arweave, which is how we're storing all of our files, OpenZeppelin, which is what is the lower stack of our tokens, and a whole bunch of others. I won't go too deep into all the rest. The main two ones that we're really going to dive into are the graph and Arweave. So basically, the graph is how we keep in sync with the blockchain, and Arweave is where we're storing the actual data of that NFT. And we'll go into why that matters. But I'm going to kind of pull out of the depths of that and kind of explain what an NFT is and why those are quite interesting in today's world. So let's go into, so interoperability is a big thing. So we essentially have this new system where the token itself is the API. Anyone can use that token and the smart contract to interact with that. So we don't have to open up our own APIs that restrict people to do certain things. And why that's neat is we can go into beautiful worlds like, let's say, crypto voxels. This is our headquarters where a lot of we've put up some pieces of work from people that have minted on our platform in our space. And what's quite neat about this space is that I have to be the token owner to actually build on this system. We can actually see a nice, beautiful little unitized setup. Also, if you haven't noticed, you actually built, a lot of you have actually owned this unitized token that was minted on Mintbase, which enabled you to actually vote. So what we're really pushing for is the process of being able to not only have a token as a collectible, but to be able to have those tokens do a lot more than sit in your wallet. We want it to enable you to vote, to be able to get you into co-working spaces, to get you into physical conferences, to send a pizza to your door. We want it to do a lot more. And this interoperable aspect is, here's crypto voxels. If they wanted to, they could import the store. So let's say we go into our NFTs, it would load my NFTs, and I can actually pop my NFTs in here directly without Mintbase ever having to actually open and expose those endpoints. Hopefully that makes sense, but yeah, it's a big mental leap for a lot of people. All right, so leaving the virtual world and coming back into this land. If you're not familiar with MetaMask, this is just one of the wallets that I use. If I actually come in here and we wanted to do a fresh mint, actually let's just see the whole process work from the beginning. So let's say we are full node, which is the co-working space that I work at, in. If I wanted to come in here and do a fresh mint, we can upload an image. Let's go 600 by 600. Maybe we want to give away a day at Dacha, which is a very good Russian restaurant. We're actually going to load these files up to Arweave, the Blockweave, which is another blockchain that interacts. That we basically put this image URL into the smart contract. We'll just say this is a free lunch. We're gonna just say, describe what this does. We'll mint 7 of these things. We'll say it's a product. We'll list a price. We can also add a whole bunch of other pieces, but let's go ahead and mint. So now we're interacting with Ethereum. So as soon as we interact with Ethereum, this is the wallet that we're using. My platform doesn't keep any of your wallet information. We just signal to your wallet and say, hey, I'd like to mint this token. So then what we're basically doing is now, without me touching anything, we're basically constantly pinging the graph to say, hey, once Ethereum has minted that token, I want you to update my interface and actually show that token. So we basically interacted with two blockchains. We have Ethereum, which there's our token that we just minted. It works. We can mint more of these things if we want. But that's a whole lot of technology working together. And I'll actually dive a little bit deeper into why that's interesting. So if we come into, let's go over here. All right, so hopefully you guys are kind of grasping the idea of interoperability. It's, yeah, you can interact with Twitter APIs, but this is a whole new world where if Mintbase goes away, then the token will still exist as long as Arweave and Ethereum exist. And so what you get is you come onto our platform and you deploy your own store. And when you deploy your own store and we say smart contract, this is basically what you get. You get all these beautiful functions on the Ethereum blockchain. So the really hard part about building a blockchain company right now is we're seeing kind of a new world is being able to basically allow your application to work with all these different wallets. So we want the asset to not just live on Mintbase. Anybody can create a website and then have an image show up, right? That's not that big of a innovation. The big innovation is, okay, now that asset can be bought, delivered, sold, transferred, burned, and do all these different really interesting interactions on whatever wallet you want, because all these wallets have different security models, they have different features, and you get to choose which wallet you want. This is kind of the big wow, that's blockchain starting to work. And so we're very much very pro being able to allow you to figure out what wallets you want. I actually created this thing with sound on it, but when you log in, you can have Fortmatic, which is Web 2.0, Coinbase Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect allows you to connect with Argent and Trust, Coinbase Wallet, obviously the Coinbase Wallet, and so on. So back into the tech stack. So if you've noticed, there's a thing called 3Box, which is a really fascinating application, because when everyone talks about identity, if we actually go into Mintbase and I go onto mainnet, so my application doesn't start screaming at me, because that's a good thing. So once that loads up, you'll notice more Unitize and San Francisco Blockchain Week tickets you can also grab that are available now. If I come into our markets, we use this company called 3Box. So you'll notice, you'll see our logo, and a few, that means the user or the creator or the person who minted hasn't created a 3Box account. So we can actually even come into our Unitize store, which I think is 2 layers deep. And again, each one of these are their own unique deployed smart contracts by our users. You can see here's the Unitize smart contract. We can actually click this and see that they have their own token. This is the user's address that created this token, and we can see some information. So if I actually go into 3box.io and / the address, there we go. So we're pulling information. This user is this user because they verified their Twitter account and so on. So going back into the actual market. So if we come back here and we can hop in here, you can see all the different items that you can actually grab the Unitize voting app, that's all nice and sold out, so sorry. But what's really fascinating is, look at this thing. Here's the actual contract hash. So if we click that, we can go into this thing called Etherscan. Now, this is another idea behind interoperability. So being able to see all of the information within the blockchain all right here. We can see 276 unique addresses are actually holding these tokens, and we can see each one of the addresses that are holding that token. And what's also neat is here's all of these beautiful functions that you can get on the smart contract. Supply is 601. If we want to see token by index, let's say 3, we can get the token ID by index is 31. So that's quite interesting. If you want, you can actually update items within the smart contract directly here. And coming back to the interoperability aspect, if you run your own virtual reality website, then you can also connect to this smart contract and do the transfer and all these other functions as long as you are the actual owner of that. So big difference to how we're building on today. So going back to this. So also Truffle, great system to be able to publish the items. But again, we're just going to talk about the graph and Arweave. So first things first, when we minted that token, you saw a few things happening. One, every time we uploaded a file, it went to Arweave, and 2, notifying us, the application, when that mint has been minted. So just looking at the graph, let's start down here at the bottom left on the Mintbase site. Basically, you're the user, you're interacting, you're minting, you connect whatever wallet you want. Again, we interact with all sorts of wallets, lots of wallets. Once you interact with that wallet and you say, I want to mint 10 of these, we notify your wallet, either MetaMask, Trust, or whatever that is, that you need to do that. You confirm it. That thing goes on to the blockchain. Once that gets confirmed, then it goes, the graph is constantly listening for this update to happen. It then pushes that data up to IPFS. And then once that's been updated, then our site is constantly listening for the graph to update. So once it says, Nate, you've just minted 15 of these things, then we're going to update that thing. We cannot, as a company, change the graph. Only your interactions with Ethereum can change the graph. So this opens up a whole new door with interoperability, allowing OpenSea, CryptoVoxels, and Decentraland, and all these other groups to have a choice. They can either directly ping Ethereum, again, that smart contract directly to move, to check how many or whatever. But if they want to hit something really quick, like say, who's the owner of this NFT? Are they the owner of the ticket of this NFT? Then CryptoVoxels can ping our graph directly and just check to see if they're the owner of that. If they are, they can do a quick signature and then they're done. So really fascinating change. Instead of us listening directly to Ethereum, it turns into a nightmare. You end up just doing millions of loops that is very inefficient. So the graph kind of aggregates all of that stuff together. So here we're going to start talking about Arweave for a second. So basically you come in as the minter. So you create your market, your store. You can create as many stores as you want on Mintbase. Let's say you're an ad agency and you want to mint one for Nike, a Nike campaign, and you don't want any of the information crossing between, let's say, Samsung. So you can create a whole different market or smart contract for Samsung. So let's say we are in, so this is all on Ethereum. So then you mint all your NFTs, it's all on Ethereum. And then once that mint is created, all of the files, because Ethereum is just definitely not the place to be storing files. It just costs too much money and it'll fill up the blocks way too fast because everybody in the world is basically copying all of the state, and that just gets bloated, and that's a whole other topic that we'll go into. On Arweave, the Arweave block weave, which is designed for storage, we're basically holding all of that information. So let's say we minted 4 different batches of tokens. Each one token can actually have several different file types on that token. So we can mint MP3s, MP4s, music, legal documents that says you are the licensed owner of X, Y, and Z. And here's the piece of art that comes with it. What's really neat is we got to actually have Camilla Russo mint one item onto our system where she just launched her book, The Infinite Machine. And if we come into it, she actually, so here's her market. Boom, boom, boom. So once that loads, the Infinite Machine, she actually gave a, you have the main image. This is one NFT. You have the main image, you have the text that comes with it, and then you have the title of it. And we actually have a sound file. So all of this is all within that one NFT. And so the authorization of that token can do a lot more on top of that. So if we actually want to check, here is the unique ID for this metadata. We can actually go into arweave.net / we put in that that ETH or that ID. I'm surprised that actually. So then we get this metadata, and the metadata is set in stone. I can't change this. You can't change it. No one in the world can change this information. It's set in stone. We also have the image. If we go over here on the arweave.net / that ID, and we have the animation URL, which is the actual sound that goes with it. So we have immutability. We have a timestamp of when it was created. We have it, and it's verified by several different gateways. That's quite massive. Big difference from storing something on an S3 bucket where any of my employees can go in and change it whenever they want. It would never stand up in court. So here we go. Let's go into, so now we're living in this whole new world where here's this NFT, here's Mintbase. We have Ethereum, we have Arweave, and we have the graph all kind of working together. If Mintbase ever decides to disappear, or if who knows what, then basically that's fine. Your files will keep living on as long as Arweave and Ethereum still continue. And all these other different decentralized applications can also ping the graph for that latest information. So this is kind of the next iteration. Next.js, just to go in the traditional realm, it was a big change for us. Really, really happy we did that. It's switching from a single page to a server-side render. The biggest reason why we did that is because we have a very visual website. So the only way to get dynamic social cards was to switch to this. And now we're going to be constantly optimizing to push and make Mintbase much faster over time. That's basically the big grand scheme of it. We can actually come in. Let's see. So if you want, you can just kind of come over to Mintbase. You can just kind of skim through what people are creating. DJs are starting to come on board, photographers, and all sorts of other groups. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and give us a try. Again, you could try us on rinkeby.mintbase.io to test it on that, or you just go to mintbase.io and that'll be on mainnet. And definitely, if you want to follow along, you can go into our Mintbase Twitter. That's easy to find us. We're on Telegram too if you run into problems. And yeah, let me know if you have any issues. Thanks. Bye.